Hi first graders, it's Mrs. Nobby back for another virtual science lab in my backyard all about plants. Now we've been studying plant parts, the roots, the stems, and the leaves, and what they do for the plant. In this video, I want to review and look at the experiment we set up last time. We're going to talk about and plant our sweet potatoes, and then we're going to take a tour of my garden, mostly done by Mr. Nobby, and we're going to look at plant parts that we grow and eat. Last time we set up an experiment to see what the basic needs of plants were, and we thought they were water, sun, air, and soil. So we set up a container that had all of those basic needs, and then 4 others where we took away a basic need from each one. Let's first look at the one that had no water at all. So I'm actually going to dump it out. You can see that nothing grew in this pot. I'm going to dump it out and see what happened with the seeds. And if I dig around, I can find the seeds. Look, here's a seed. Absolutely nothing happened with this seed. There was no water for it to absorb so that the seed could start to swell and begin to grow. So seeds definitely need water. Let's take a look at the one where there was no air. Now I did have to open it once or twice to give it a little water. Now, it's very, very wet in the soil. That's because the soil couldn't dry out because I had it closed in a plastic bag. Now, one seed did sprout, but it didn't get very far. And I noticed the other seeds in the bottom are a little bit rotty because they just couldn't dry out in the air. Seeds need air. They need air to be able to get to them. If they don't, they will drown. How about the one with no soil? They rotted. I left them soaking in water. Again, they didn't really have air against them either, and no soil to grow in, and nothing really happened. Now, sometimes they'll sprout a little bit, but they just can't continue to get nutrients because they don't have any soil to get the nutrients from. The one in the bag without any sunlight. Wow! No sun, and the plants actually grew. But look what happened. Are they as dark green as they could be? They didn't have any sunshine. Now they grew because they had energy from the cotyledon, which is the seed that gives the plant energy until it has leaves that it can use the sunshine, air, and water to make its own food. But with no sun, these plants weren't going to get very far. Now, ta-da! Here's the plant that we gave everything to. All 3 seeds sprouted and grew very tall. You can see the cotyledons that gave the plants energy. You can see the seed coat on this one and the true leaves that came out. And now those leaves are going to be the part that uses their air, water, and sun to make food for the plant. So let's take a look. These are all from Miss Lorenz's class and Miss Schildknecht's class. The other sweet potatoes are going to be up at Addison. I had a family that took care of those. Let's take a look at the sweet potato. You can see the roots that come down and the shoots that came up. A sweet potato is a vine, so the leaves and the stems are going to vine out. The root is what actually grows the sweet potato. So after today, we won't know whose was whose. It won't matter. I'm just going to plant them in the garden, and then as second graders, you all get to dig up sweet potatoes, and hopefully we'll have enough for you to each take one home. First graders, this is our sweet potato bed, also known as the Carver Garden, or I should say future site of. Mrs. Nobby has her work cut out for her. I need to weed the garden first, and then I'll be planting your sweet potato slips, which are the sprouts that you sprouted in the science lab. I have most of the weeds out and found that the weeds were actually a weed or plant called bedstraw, which is something that pioneers used to use a long time ago to stuff mattresses to make them soft. That's why it's called bedstraw. But we didn't really want it in the Carver Garden. My next task is to turn over the soil to make it nice and loose, and then make some rows, which are actually rows of hills, to plant the sweet potatoes. I found a few earthworms as I was digging, which is a great sign. See, there it is. Great sign that we've got earthworms in our soil. They aerate the soil, which means they make room in the soil for air to get down to the roots, which is really important for sweet potatoes and all plants. So that's why I turned over the soil so that we could get a lot of loose soil so that the roots can grow nice and deep. Now remember, sweet potatoes are roots. Wow, those rows were harder to make than I thought they would be. So shout out to Mr. Singletary. He's the one that usually makes the rows for us. So thank you for doing that, Mr. Singletary, for all of these years. I've done 3 rows, which are mounded up, and we're gonna start to plant the sweet potatoes 6 inches apart. There are 2 ways you can plant sweet potatoes once they've sprouted. You can just put the whole sweet potato in the ground, making sure the roots are down under the soil and the sweet potato is mostly buried and the shoots come up, which is the way I'm gonna do it. Or I could have snapped off all of the shoots or the vines and rooted them and put this straight in the ground, which I'll do with this one. That's called a sweet potato slip when you do it like this. Remember in the science lab when we looked at the eyes of the sweet potato and we talked about that's where the sprouts would come out? That's exactly what happened. The sweet potato is a good drink of water because we know that plants need water to grow. So I'm going to be watering all of them. When I finish watering the bed, I'm going to cover the sweet potato bed with some plastic netting because I know there's a pesky chipmunk that lives around here, and the chipmunk in the past has dug up the sweet potatoes. So if I cover the whole bed with something like this, then our sweet potatoes will be safe. We are all finished. The sweet potatoes are covered, protected from the chipmunks, and ready to grow in the hot Georgia sun all summer long. Did you know that we eat roots, stems, leaves, even flower buds? A carrot is a root that we eat. Right here in my backyard garden, we're growing rutabagas, which is another type of root that can be eaten. And this in the corner is a white potato, different than the sweet potato. Sweet potatoes are roots we can eat, and white potatoes are actually a storage stem that we eat. These are green bean plants. When they flower, the seed that will grow behind the flower is in a pod, and that's a seed that we eat. These cucumber plants are going to climb high on the trellis. When they flower, if they get pollinated, they'll make a fruit, which we can cut open and see the seeds. These are broccoli plants. Did you know broccoli actually is a flower bud that we eat? The stalk will come out of the middle and we harvest it before the buds open. Did you realize every time you eat a salad, you're eating leaves? I'm actually going to show you. This is some green leaf lettuce, and I'm just going to take it off and try it. It's a yummy leaf that you can eat, and it's really good for you too. Within my lettuce container, I also have a tomato plant. Tomatoes are actually the fruit of the plant. Anything that has seeds inside is called the fruit. Other leaves in the garden that can be eaten are collard greens, spinach, Swiss chard, and many other types of lettuces. First graders, I hope you enjoyed the video today, looking at our experiment that we set up, planting sweet potatoes and learning about plant parts that we eat. Remember, never eat a plant part that your parent hasn't approved. Bye, first graders. I sure miss you.